The last time I gave an update, we had just started the process of IVF, and we knew that we had to go for a lot of tests and that was going to take quite some time. Not, we weren't really anticipating that it would take as long as it has taken. All up, it's been 8 months since we actually started the process. But what happened was we went for our initial tests and we were waiting to hear back. So that was sort of late October 2020 that we'd gone for some tests. And we knew that there were shutdowns and that kind of thing. So we knew that, potentially nothing would start until January. But when I still hadn't heard anything mid-January, I contacted our fertility clinic and they said, oh, look, it might actually take up to 6 months to get back to you. At which stage we were like, oh, great, not ideal, but, what can you do about it? So we were then, sort of just waiting until they rang back pretty quickly, pretty much the next day, actually apologising and saying, we're really sorry, we had your results back in November and we misplaced them, or we forgot to tell you what they were. And the result was that we had to get more tests done. So we then had to go for more tests, and we also had to approach some family members to get some tests so we could get more genetic information. And then there was quite a long process. It ended up taking about 8 more weeks at that stage because they went and sourced DNA from our previous miscarriages as well. Because what they were going to have to do was to build like this special probe, they called it, to test our embryos with to see whether they carried the unbalanced form of the translocation. We knew then once they'd worked out they could actually do the testing, we still then needed to get approval from a review board to go ahead and create embryos to test. And since there'd been the stuff up with our results, the clinic was actually very good about it. And they sort of asked for a special waiver to get our application through, and like a special out of session approval, which we were really grateful for. So essentially they got that approval, we went in for our appointment a couple of days later, and then the next day we started our IVF cycle, which, even though it had sort of taken 8 months to get to that point, it then just sort of happened like that, which was all a bit crazy. So that then led to quite a lot of stress because during that week, myself and my son, we both came down with vomiting bugs. And I thought, oh no, they're not going to let me go in for my scans or my blood tests. So I sort of rang and explained the situation, and they just made some special arrangements so that I could go into the clinic when there was no one else there, and I just, had to wear a mask and everything. And we thought, oh good, we've gotten through that hurdle. And then the weekend came and there was a COVID lockdown in Perth, and we were like, oh gosh, what if so at that point we were sort of getting ready for our first retrieval, which was supposed to be the following week. And we were just going, oh no, what if it doesn't go ahead? But then they rang and said, yeah, look, your retrieval will definitely go ahead. So we thought, oh good, that's organised. But then Sam came down with a cold over the weekend, and because Perth was in lockdown because of COVID, we were then freaking out, going, oh no, what does this mean? And I know I'm laughing, but it was not funny at the time. So they said, well, he has to go for a COVID test and, ask for an urgent turnaround, and got to the clinic, and the clinic said, yeah, there's nothing we can do about an urgent turnaround. You have to wait like everyone else. So luckily his results came through in time, and we were able to go and do our retrieval, and everything went fine. So this has just happened yesterday. So we had our retrieval yesterday, it went fine. We knew that the possibility of getting any eggs was going to be low because of my low AMH, but we were lucky that they retrieved 3, which was good. 2 of those were mature, and then I found out this morning that 1 of those was fertilised. So we now have to wait. have to wait and see whether that 1 progresses any further. And I won't know any more until Friday, and it's Wednesday today. So I'm still in resting mode now, recovering from the retrieval. And we're just waiting to see. So now we're at a point where we wanted to, ideally, batch 10 embryos to send away because we know that only 1 in 5 might be okay to transfer. But given that we've only maybe got 1, we'll have to reconsider whether we test them as we go, or whether we do a few more rounds to send a batch at once. And we've got to kind of consider, because obviously if they biopsy them straight away, that's better than freezing and defrosting to biopsy and freeze again while you wait for the results and so on. So anyway, there's no point worrying about that until we know whether we actually have an embryo or not. But we can stay hopeful, and no doubt there's going to be more rounds of retrievals as we go. So let's be hopeful.